Please, for the love of everything that is holy, back up your saves right now.
Back up your saves.
If you're planning on joining us, that is. Next week, on the experimental branch of Satisfactory. That is right, team. Next week, on Tuesday, we are reopening experimental. Our approach to this branch moving forwards will be to use it to address more complex fixes to the game without actually disturbing the innate peace and quiet or balancing of 1.0 or the current live version of the game. Doubly so now that the game has actually left early access and is, well, live and released. These fixes will include more severe bug fixes, deep-end programming changes, and vast optimization happening, again, hopefully without introducing unwanted side effects to the live version. Aside from not just breaking the game outright, a nice bonus of this approach is that we hope to alleviate our annoying super small patch cadence that happens occasionally. A good example of this is Fixmas, just last Fixmas, where we had almost weekly, we had patches dropping on top of each other, which ultimately fixed very redundant or minute stuff, but they still meant a full download on the user end, and for people with limited time or internet or both, this became very annoying very quickly. We heard the feedback, we heard the rightful complaints, and again, we hope that fixing these issues, catching them in EXP before sending them to the live version, will alleviate this annoying small patch cadence. So, let's talk about how you can opt into experimental and what you should do beforehand and what you can expect specifically. Before anything else, let us say that this test session next week will be about optimization and tech improvement mainly, so you will not find any new content. Regardless, before you dive in, there is one thing you should always do, and that is, again,
back up your saves.
To back up your saves, you will need to find your SaveGame folder on your actual machine, your PC. To find this easily, press the Windows key as well as the R key on your keyboard together, and in the new search tab that appears, without spaces, you will type %localappdata %/FactoryGame /saved/SaveGames. You will find this string in the comments of this video, so you can just copy and paste it and find your folder easily like that. Or, if you are one of those people, you can also try to find this folder manually. In this folder, you will see a bunch of folders with seemingly random strings of numbers, and these numbers are your Epic or Steam IDs depending on which platform you play. Make copies of these, put them in a folder, and put this folder somewhere safe for now. After doing this, you will enter Steam, you will find Satisfactory in your library, you can right-click on the game, select Properties, select Betas, and from a drop-down menu on this Betas tab, you can select Experimental. So now you're here. What can you expect? Well, among other things, something seemingly simple but still very quality of life will be port binding fixes for dedicated servers. Right now, if you are hosting a dedicated server and playing the actual game on the same machine, and you disconnect from the game on this machine, you may find, or you will find, that all clients on your server will also disconnect from the game regardless of their network status. This port binding fix, despite everything, is a pretty simple fix, but since it does alter the way we handle port binding, we still want to send this to experimental before we send it to 1.0. And again, this fix intends to make it so that even if you do disconnect from the game on the machine where you're also hosting the server, other clients should still be able to play. We also have a lot of customization updates, bug fixes, and vast performance improvements heading your way. These changes are pretty extensive and should cover a lot of scenarios where the customizer would cause heavy performance hitches, most notably when hovering a customizer hologram over buildables in big factories or changing the swatch colors in the customizer menu, often seen with conveyor belts and pipes. We're also addressing lightweight buildables not reacting to any changes to their customizer swatch until saving and reloading, and this includes foundations and walls. So now, these changes should work on the fly again without having to save and reload. We're also bringing in a bunch of fixes for lightweight buildables failing to be removed or to be replicated in dedicated servers for clients. So Situations where lightweight buildables like, again, foundations and walls, as well as road barriers, catwalk walkways, etc., failing to be dismantled or sampled should not happen anymore. Right now, this would require you to restart the server to actually display the buildables as properly removed, but after this fix, they should be removed on the fly without having to save and reload. And sampling should also just work now. We also have a lot of fixes for customizer and conveyor belt related crashes, as well as optimization for bulk data replication. So these changes on top of more will be hitting EXP next Tuesday as said. But moving forwards in the weeks afterwards, we will also be rolling out even more bug test fixes and optimizations to Experimental for you to test. And these changes are bigger, and they include changes that vastly improve our foliage, lightweight, recipe, and schematic systems to overcome multiple network bottlenecks that we've had in the past. Right now, while playing in multiplayer or on a dedicated server, you can end up in situations where after removing large amounts of foliage, foliage might stop replicating altogether, resulting in foliage being non-interactable or just not properly disappearing. Our incoming improvements in the weeks following should result in less strain on Unreal Engine's replication system, leading to an improved multiplayer experience. And it should also alleviate the very common issue of reliable buffer overflow on joining a session. With this, there should be a significant improvement in how fast foliage and buildables are loaded compared to joining a save and seeing buildables and foliage pop in and out of existence in a very just blocky way. For these sessions coming down later, we're also going to try to address issues with the advanced game settings menu during a multiplayer session, kicking you out if you try to change any of these settings. So a pretty techy part of these upcoming changes in the later weeks includes a change where players will have to open their current TCP port, which right now is 7777 by default, on top of the already open UDP port, as we will now use both of these for networking. At some point during Experimental, we will allow for this change to be made on the player side. So all this gibberish said and done, what's a good way to test it? Well, if you just play the game normally on Experimental and you experience disconnects, network issues, or any other unexpected crashes or issues, sending in reports if you get crash reports is awesome, but also if you just describe on our QA site exactly what you were doing on Experimental as you disconnect or crash, that would be super helpful. So post about all of your unexpected issues on the QA site. Thank you. And that's all we had for this week. Short and sweet. If you plan on taking part of Experimental, please enjoy anything new brewing with the game. Thank you. Thank you so much for actually taking part and testing the upcoming stuff for the game. And we all hope you have a fantastic day and a fantastic weekend. Thank you very much. Go hug someone. Go hug someone you like. Hugs are nice. Hugs are nice.